gosh, please bear with me. So many technical glitches going on. Give me a second. I'll be right back. Whew. Jeepers, man. Just trying to stay alive. Keep going. Oh, man. Okay, I'm just going to put the music off to the side for a little bit. I felt compelled. I've been trying to make videos for days now, but it gets really hard. Anyway, I'm here now. The only reason I'm here is because it's been raining and everything outside is really soggy, and I can't do all the household projects that require dry conditions. So I thought, wow, perfect opportunity. Let's get back here and do this. Hello, Precious. Oh, it's been really tough, Precious. I don't know how you put up with it. I really don't know how you... I don't know how you do it. I really don't. It's funny because I think about you quite frequently. We've never met in person, of course, but we've had our conversations here on YouTube and in private, you know, with some of our private meetings and so on. And I've done, you know, thousands of readings, people from all over the world, but we've kind of coalesced into this small little community, and we keep an eye on each other. I don't know what to make of it, but this is how things are. Everything is exactly as it should be. Why is that so? How is that so? Well, it's because it can't be any other way. Things are the way they are. It's just universal law, universal truth. It's a question of perception, and how do you deal with your perceptions? How do you respond to the energy that's out there? The energy of the planets is pure. It's absolutely pure. If it does not discriminate, it's not good, it's not evil. Sometimes it's challenging to itself. Sometimes it's very supportive to itself. It's a question of us. How do we deal with it? Because these are just geomagnetical forces that apply to everything in our solar system, whether you are a squid in the ocean, an amoeba, a whale with GPS system, an eagle with GPS systems built inside of you, whether you're at the very top of the communist Marxist elites that are trying to take over the world, whatever it is. This is exactly the same energy field. It's a question of what do you do with it? How do you respond? How do you behave? Anyway, I'm going to just want to say hi. My disabled daughter is having heart... Oh, my God. Oh, jeez. Oh, man. Well, tomorrow, let me see, when is the new moon? We are heading in. It'll be a gentle energy. Saturn is going retrograde. That is, if you want to look at it, okay, precious, Saturn is going retrograde in Pisces, so it's a really good time for the revealing of the healing. And whatever needs to be fixed can be brought into the light. And it's like in the situation, for your example, with your daughter, if they already know that she needs heart surgery, once they go actually go in and take care of business, they're going to find out a lot more that they did not know before the surgery. And so let's look at that as an optimistic perspective of Saturn going into Pisces retrograde. Remember, the 12th house could be also interpreted as the house of hidden enemies, house of disease, sickness, loss, tragedy, failure, betrayals, all those sad, unhealthy aspects of Neptune energy, the Pisces vibe. Of course, there's a beautiful side too, which is the world of imagination, art, creativity, divine inspiration, universal love, and the healing power of love as a very, very powerful energy field. So it's all happening simultaneously. Let's pray for your little girl, and that everything goes well. They find out what they need to find out, and they fix what they need to fix. So I have made a list of things that to me are very important, and there's so much more going on that I'd love to report on, but you know, you've got to live your lives, I've got to live my life, and there's only so much that I can do at any one moment in time. My voice isn't even that strong right now. I don't know why. So before I actually go to the Astrodoodle here, let me just say hello and welcome. Greetings, this is TarotLumination. It is Friday, 16th of June, over here in the Pacific time in America. Beautiful, beautiful country. I feel extremely blessed to be who I am, where I am, how I am, why I am, when I am right now. To me, it's a very special time in history. I'm very aware of multiple past lives and how they all intertwine and have relevance to what is happening in my own personal life today. And this theme that you see behind you about this amazing human experiment called the United States is very, very vibrant right now. It's inside of me. It's inside of at least 75 million Americans right now who are very acutely aware of this amazing, let's say, gift that we have here in the United States. Something that we have chosen for ourselves and institutionalized this in terms of the what we call the Declaration of Independence, and later on the Bill of Rights, which lays down like the mission statement of what we do and how we do it, where, who, what, when, why, where, and how of our operating system. It's like a operating manual when you buy a new car or you buy a new gadget. That is our Bill of Rights. Okay, it's this thing here. Okay, you've probably seen this multiple times on my channel. The Constitution is basically the code book by which we all live here in America. And the Declaration was made on 4th of July, 1776. And everything here is in extreme, deep jeopardy right now. And as you know, I correlate that very strongly with the very, very tippy end of the Pluto cycle around which the United States is pivoting. It's lived through the whole cycle, just like you have a solar cycle, a lunar cycle, a Saturn cycle. Like a Saturn return is very well, documented. There's also a Pluto return, okay? And so on and so on. And for a Pluto return, as you know, you don't see that in your own lifetime, because the Pluto return is about every 250 years, and most humans expire at most around 80 or 90. Some before, some after. So you never get to see a Pluto return in your own lifetime. So that's why I feel I've been through multiple lifetimes since the initial Pluto cycle of 1776, when I believe I was around, very active, very alive, and very much a participant in the massive revolutionary upheavals that happened in what we now call the United States to create a new way of living that basically defines what is not acceptable and defines what is acceptable. Saying goodbye to totalitarian regimes, monarchies, evil dictatorships, monstrous, greedy, power-hungry ruling classes. And they had it that way for a long time. And then a bunch of people decided we need to flip this upside down so that these people at the top work for us, because it's we the people that keep them alive. So if we're putting all this money into their coffers and they're taking taxes and they're bleeding us and farming us as their subjects, in other words, like farm animals, like property, that means, oh wow, that's interesting, we have value. You know what? There's something very wrong here, because all the value comes from us, and all they do, the elites, they just farm it, extract it like milking a cow. Okay, let's create a new business model, and that's what's called the United States, the Bill of Rights, especially the First Amendment and the Second Amendment, freedom of speech, and the right to defend our freedom of speech by the ability to carry arms as necessary, in order to protect ourselves from enemies outside and ultimately the enemies within. Right now, here today in the United States, the enemy is within. Okay? It's very, very dangerous. I've talked about it many times. I see it as a massive metastatic, cancerous, stage 4 tumor that has grown throughout the whole of the United States and beyond, just like exactly the same way as cancer grows. But it's not the end. We're not dead yet. Okay? The American people are extremely resilient. If you think of the United States as an organism, we have an incredibly powerful immune system. And our immune system is waking up right now to the realization that we are under attack. Pretend I'm the United States and I'm realizing, what the hell? I'm under attack. 360 degrees, above, north, south, east, and west, up, down, everywhere. This is not acceptable. And I've now realized it. You've got to reveal it to heal it. The revealing is happening right now. The big reveal started in January 2020, when it became obvious on the world stage that there's something very evil going on, and it's being propagated and perpetrated by a very small number of evil people. And we've identified them before. So right now we are in the absolute death grip of what's happening. It's like being inside like an intensive care unit or an emergency care unit, where the United States is kind of like an emergency, like a person in distress, a life or death situation, and that's for the whole country. And of course, the elite, who basically want to take over and destroy this beautiful thing that we have, are very, very thrilled right now, because they think they're that close to taking over the whole world, not just the United States. The reason they want to destroy the United States as their number one agenda is because the United States is the final roadblock, the final barrier to complete global Marxist, communist, totalitarian, evil, tyrannical dictatorship, as controlled and operated through the political and banking system that exists today. Those elites are working very, very hard behind the scenes to push their agenda forward. And a lot of people around the world are waking up and realizing there's something very, very sick here. Some people are resisting. Some people are fighting back. But there's also a bunch of people who want to be a part of the global elite. And so they go along with this game. They actually actively choose to become a vibrant cancer cell In other words, they have already been infected, and they are feeding off the energy of the elites, just like a field of weeds feeds off the sunlight and energy and fertilizer. And if you don't stop it, the weeds will take over. Okay? And that's where we are in the United States right now. Anyway, let me go back to the charts a few moments. Okay? Let me show you here. So right now we're at a point of critical mass, multiple astrological events. We have the Pluto in Capricorn retrograde right now. So this marks a time for the next few months, pretty much to the end of the year and early next year, where the global elites, especially here in the United States, are going to have an intense struggle to try and push their agenda forward. It's the energy of desperation in the 29th degree of Pluto in Capricorn. It's going to retrograde all the way to 27. So we're going to see over the next, I would say, 4 to 9 months, an incredible, exposure of the sheer scale of the evil that is being propagated by the elites. Now, and again, you got to reveal it to heal it. And the more we the people see it, the more the average person sees it, the more they're going to realize we're in a point of desperation. So what are we going to do? We're going to create a parallel world, and we're going to find a way to survive and thrive despite the agenda of the evil elites. Simultaneously, we've now got Saturn retrograde, officially tomorrow, but effectively now. And that is going to be, that's in Pisces. Okay, so look at it right here. This is the Pluto, Capricorn, Aquarius cusp retrograde moment here. This is a major crisis point. It's going to go on it's been going on for several years. It's going to continue for several more years until we're actually in the new season of Pluto and Aquarius for a 20-year journey. But we're not really there yet. We've already got a glimpse. It's going to be radically different in terms of technology and science and the way that affects society and humanity as a whole. There is going to be a tremendous, let's say, momentum for what works for human people as opposed to what works for the elites. And for that to happen, it means a taking down and disempowering of the elites, so that we the people can actually keep our wealth and our power to ourselves. Hence the North Node journey of sovereign wealth, sovereign money. And we talked about that months ago with the eclipses. This is the crisis point we talked about, where the global financial system is dead and dying, and a new one is being reborn. And there is going to be an evil version of it, and there's going to be a healthy version of it. Or let's just say healthy and unhealthy. The unhealthy version will be the one that is being propagated right now through the central banks across the world, the Bank of International Settlements, the European Central Bank, the United States Federal Reserve, the China Central Bank, and all those central banks which represent like the battery of power. And they want to maintain and own and keep their power, so they're creating the central bank digital currency, which is actually a tool of imprisonment for you, the people. You can research all this stuff yourself if you want to. But that's what they're trying to do. And they're trying to do it in such a way that you don't know that it's happening. And by the time it's fully implemented and done over the next 3 to 5 years, you will be a slave if you're not careful. Literally, if you think you're a slave now, it's going to be a lot worse. Right now, the slavery is the form of debt slavery. But anyway, we've talked about this many times, that right now, that crisis point is still very active, okay? Global financial crisis, evolutionary changes, no going back. Recently we talked about the big fat T-square here between Pluto opposite Mars. That is moving on and that energy is fading. But the evidence is very, very clear that the World War III is here, and it's very violent and ugly and dirty and hostile. And it's happening on the global scale. And the level of violence has exploded dramatically, as predicted, including threat of nuclear violence now openly on the mainstream media. So, that's the other thing here. It's still very, very tense here. It's still very, very tense here. There's a lot of exposure with all this Gemini energy here and the Gemini new moon coming up very soon. Moon and Mercury conjoined right now, all in very hard square to Saturn and Pisces. Again, you've got to reveal it to heal it, and that means talking about it on the open stage in public. And the way I feel that's happening is through the kind of media that I like, that I enjoy, which I feel corresponds with what I consider to be truth. So, for example, some of you know that I lean towards what they call patriot or truth-based type culture. I like Tucker Carlson. I like Donald Trump. I like Newsmax News, for example. I like our Constitution. I like the First Amendment. I like the Second Amendment. And I don't want to lose any of that stuff. But all of that stuff represents, to me, goodness, wholesome. And it's under extreme attack by the elites. Okay? They want to destroy all of that. And in some ways, they're doing a very good job. But remember, the United States is extremely resilient. And the more that the elites, try to destroy this beautiful thing that we have, the stronger our immune system becomes, because our immune system is being activated right now to the point where it's going to become extremely resonant and very active and extremely hostile towards the elites. Mark my words. Okay? So that's all happening right now. Okay, I'm going to put over in simple terms, I wanted to make this little statement here. It's getting very hard for the elites, that is the Uniparty in America, the Democrat Party, the Marxist Party, the Communist Party, and their administration under Joe and their regime. It's becoming very hard for them to hide themselves anymore and the true evil of their agenda. If you think I'm talking like a crackpot, then you need to start doing your own homework and become aware, because otherwise you're effectively setting yourself up to be a victim of these people. Oh, hold on. I've got some more notes here. I'll come to these in a moment. I just want to check the chat. It just filled up with a little bit of... Yeah, we talked about Precious and her kid having the heart surgery. God, I hope that goes well. Well, we'll probably... if she's having it right now, she'll probably still be in the hospital on Sunday when we come to meet up again on Sunday night. So maybe, Precious, you can give us some updates, okay, at the time. You're also dealing with negative and positive energies in Pisces. Well, they are. That's very well spoken, Precious, because they are happening simultaneously. This energy here in the astrology is extremely hard to handle, but you're dealing with it. It's very, very hard. So you must have a very, very powerful will to live, survival, immune, kind of spiritual system inside of you. Okay, Precious? And your Sagittarian butt is tired. Well, right now, remember, if you've got a Sagittarius vibe over here, there's not much support going on, but you've got a lot of, let's say, opposition going on here, because you've got Sun, Moon, and Mercury in full opposition to the Sagittarius energy. So it might feel as though you're going up a very steep hill right now. Okay? With a lot of obstacles and pressure and stress on you right now. And of course, that Pisces energy is hard squaring you right now. It's a long-term hard square. So imagine that you are on a very long expedition. You've got to conserve your energy and pace yourself very, very carefully, okay? Well done, Precious. Frankly, you're a hero. Path Traveler says over here, question, TL. Do you think the yuan is being used because China will dump the U.S. debt? Well, My personal feeling is that there's a mixed story going on here with China. China is in very, very deep trouble right now. It's been in trouble for a few years, but Saturn in Pisces right now is amplifying the trouble. And it's going to be a 2.5-year journey, at least a 2-year journey more for China. And as I predicted, China's economy, let's put this over here. I'm going to put Aquarius on the horizon like this, okay? This is, in China, this represents the second house of money, values, belief systems. What we're seeing in China now, despite how they present themselves to the world, the reality is that inside China, they are desperate. They're coming unglued. Their economy is imploding, collapsing, and the Chinese Communist Party under Xi Jinping is now seeing the results of its behavior, and it is a total implosion. And the more and more it implodes from the inside, the more and more China becomes belligerent and pompous and violent and aggressive on the outside to cover up their fragility on the inside. And it's going to get worse. Over the next 2 years, things are going to get a lot worse for China. So as they get worse for China, I feel it's going to get worse for the rest of the world because of the Chinese tendency towards violence. Okay? They like to solve their problems with violence. So back to you, Path. The Chinese yuan, we have to remember in China, let me go over here so I can chat with you. In China, the yuan is mostly a self-contained currency between the Chinese and the Chinese people, the Chinese corporations. But China has become so big in its global exposure that more and more countries are considering transacting from their own currency into the yuan. The way I see it is I don't think that they're aware of the hazards, because you have to remember that the Chinese economic explosion that happened over the last 20 years, well, 40, but really 20 years, is based on a copycat of the American model of debt, creating astronomical amounts of debt by printing astronomical amounts of money. It's like the American debt system on steroids. So inside China right now, they have a massive debt crisis inside their own economy. And everything's imploding. Their corporations, their exports, their real estate, their transportation, all of that is imploding. There is poverty. Mass poverty is spreading across the whole of the middle and working class. The poor are very poor. My personal belief is you're going to see at least 1 billion people in poverty in China very soon. The other 400 million will try to maintain what looks like a westernized, super glitzy, successful life. But even that is very fragile because all of it is based on debt. All the Chinese people got scammed and conned by the CCP plan to copycat America. So however bad it seems here, it's much worse in China. So let's say China, hold on, I want to go back to passes. If China tries to dump the US dollar, you have to figure out, well, where's it going to go? Well, my feeling is, okay, so China is trying to create supremacy across the world. It literally wants everything. It wants your money, your house, your car, your energy. Most of all, it wants your energy. And they're doing that. They've been planning this for a very long time. It started with Mao Zedong, and then the other fellow, and now here's Xi Jinping. And the idea is exactly a replica of the European elite system of total globalized totalitarianism. So in a way, the elites of Europe and America and the so-called developed countries are directly at odds with China, because China operates as a singular organism that wants the whole world They don't want to share it. They want the whole thing. Russia is a little different. Russia understands that it's going to be a multipolar world, and the United States is just going to be a member of that multipolar world. That's how it's going to go. The thing about the United States dollar is that we have supremacy, and every country on earth is locked into the dollar, whether they like it or know it or not. And so if people panic and they kind of go, oh, you know what? We need to get out of the U.S. dollar because the United States is crumbling. And they keep printing money, and devaluing effectively their currency, making it worth less, which makes it worthless, and making it harder and harder for everyone else outside America. So we need to de-dollarize. Oh dear. But the problem is where you're going to go. Let's say you're a country in Africa or India. So what they're trying to do is, let's form a group between the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And now there's 100 other countries that want to join that group, thinking that they're going to escape from the US dollar hegemony. Well, they will to some extent. But if they feel that they're going to lean on China and Russia as, let's say, the bastions of safety and security and stability and reliable currency, I think they're deluded, because the China system is even more evil and more of a scam than the United States Federal Reserve system of debt. And China has really no option right now except to print more money itself. So it's digging itself into a deeper hole. If Japan holds the most debt from America, then there's China, and every country on earth holds American dollars like in the reserve in your back pocket so they can do international transactions. So, hello Diana. So, yes, I think the yuan will try to de-dollarize, but it still has to keep dollars. Well, I think the movement towards de-dollarization is a natural consequence as the end of the Pluto cycle. Like it's gone full circle, and America has had its glory day as the reserve currency. Pat, if globalization is the goal, well, it is the goal for China. It is the goal for the Bank of International Settlements. It is the goal for all the major central banks around the world, like the United States Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank, and so on. They want globalization for themselves. The problem is that there are people who are waking up and they want a parallel world because they don't want that. They've figured out that it's a massive scam that's designed to farm you, to harvest your energy, suck the lifeblood out of you through the tools of inflation and debt. That's how it works, okay? And then they win and you lose. And just so long as you have just enough comfort to make sure it's okay, to make you feel okay, then you don't question it. In other words, you live literally like a cow on a debt farm, like a cow on an industrial slaughterhouse farm, okay? Same with chickens, pigs, goats, seafood, all of it. You're nothing more than a debt cow on a debt farm. That's how they view you. But some people don't like that. Some people want to recover sovereign wealth, your own right to be free, choose how you buy and sell things, where you go and how you do it. That's freedom. By the way, look at my new t-shirt. Here we are. See that? Freedom rocks. And there's some guitars because I like guitars, okay? So it's a beautiful t-shirt made in China. It's tricky to decouple from China, okay? So let's just say all these countries decide, you know what, we don't want to do the dollar anymore, and they start dumping the dollar. Yeah, theoretically, that creates a big problem for the United States. But they don't. The downside is they don't really have anywhere else to go. Because what happens is that China is now fully exposed to its own debt. Like, oh, I don't want to do dollars anymore. On the other hand, China is desperate for dollars. They're never going to tell you out front, but the Chinese economy is bleeding out right now. There are so many countries and corporations that have already pulled out that the classic essence of any country and corporation, cash in, cash out, just like running a business. Number one, China operates the yuan by manipulation. It's nothing to do with actual value. If the US dollar drops, then they drop the yuan. If it drops again, they drop the yuan. They always try to maintain parity. If the dollar goes up, then the Chinese central bank raises the dollar. So it's totally fake. It's all fiction. The reality is that the Chinese yuan is, to my perspective, almost worthless. It's more worthless than the United States dollar. But again, when you talk about fiat currencies, it's all relative because, everything is measured against the US dollar. And that's the beauty of having the United States dollar reserve currency that's all fiat. In other words, it's just a belief system. If we say it's worth this much, then everyone else has to accept that. And so everyone has to adjust accordingly. The United States has weaponized the dollar because it can, and so it does, and everyone else is sick of it. And China recognizes that, so it weaponizes the yuan against the dollar by doing this. So they're never, ever far apart. But other countries don't really do that. They can't. They don't have the scale. So let's say it's just like having a run on the bank. Let's say Japan says, you know what, we've got to stop holding all these dollars. Switzerland, France, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, we just need to get out of the dollar because it's going down. So if they do that, just imagine what happens. Imagine the United States is like a bank, the Federal Reserve Bank of America, and everybody starts selling the dollars outside America. That's no different from having a run on the bank. Like in America, we just had the run on the bank with Silicon Valley, First Republic, and Silvergate. Kaboom, 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 kaboom. Just 3 banks, and that was bigger than the 2008 crisis. And it's getting much, much worse because our debt model is imploding just like the way I described in China. But it has a different flavor. So anyway, if they all decide we need to de-dollarize, let's get out, sell the dollars, they create a massive, basically, time bomb for themselves. It's very, very hard to decouple from the dollar without destroying yourself in the process. You see? Very, very, very tricky. And the United States is taking full advantage of that again as part of their agenda to push globalization across the whole earth through the CBDCs. It's happening. It's actually happening. But there are people who are figuring out an alternative pathway. I want to do something here that I don't really do very often. I'll see if I can do this. I set it up because, as you know, there are certain people I like on YouTube. And what I want to do is read something to you from Mark. So I'm going to try and read off of my tablet here, and I'll read it out to you. He likes to spread the word, so I am going to read from Mark Moss right now. The title of this paper is Secession is Spreading Quickly. Secession is the deliberate movement away from an existing structure or status quo. This is all about money and finance and the global politics. Okay, here we go. I'll try and read this as though I'm like Tucker Carlson or if I'm a professional storyteller. Okay. Brush fires, the weekly highlight. Quote from Samuel Adams, "It does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men in order that we can prevail." Okay. I'm just reading from here. Secession is spreading quickly in the United States. And how can you get in on that action today? Today, in 10 minutes or less, you'll learn how to join the secession movement and create a better society. Basically, what's happening? What is national secession? There's a new system of freedom that's blossoming. Welcome to the new economy, and join me and become a dark market disruptor. He's actually trying to sell and market an event where he will be a speaker. But let me read the story that goes with this. Secession is in play, active and alive right now. Even, for example, the way Idaho might be merging with parts of eastern Oregon, because a lot of people in Oregon are sick of the communists that are running Oregon over in Portland. Okay, secession is in play, and there's no turning back. The leftist Democrats finally completed their 100-year march through our governing and cultural institutions. They now control the government, the news media, the entertainment industry,